I'm the protagonist of a crazy heroine novel, and I've suddenly been thrown into a youthful pain story. The bully girl pushed my head into the dirty mop water in the bathroom. Without hesitation, I took a huge gulp of the filthy water, then got up and kissed her straight on the mouth. Chapter 1. What are you staring at? Hold her down. A chaotic noise surrounded me. I opened my eyes and saw a group of delinquent girls standing in front of me, with heavy makeup and multiple earrings. Before I could react, two of them grabbed my arms tightly. What's going on? Wasn't I just crawling miserably in the shadows at a banquet? How did I end up here? Suddenly, a sleazy electronic voice rang in my mind. Congratulations! You've been selected by the system to start the youth melodrama quest. After listening to the system's rambling, I realized the truth. The world I had lived in for the past 20 years was a crazy female lead story, and I was the protagonist. Due to a system error, I was now forced into this youth melodrama called The Sky is Crying, and so is my heart. Playing the role of the female lead with the same name. To return, I had to complete the original protagonist's wish of changing her tragic fate. At this moment, I really wanted to curse out loud. But the delinquent girls didn't give me the chance. They pushed me toward the dirty water sink. The leader crossed her arms and smiled maliciously. You filthy girl. Have you seen yourself? How dare you like Sam? I'll make sure you wake up from this delusion. With that, she grabbed my hair and tried to dunk my head into the mop water bucket. I dug my toes into the ground, holding my body steady. I grabbed the edge of the sink tightly and warned her. I advise you not to do this. What? Scared now? I'm going to make sure you remember this feeling, so you'll never dare again. The next second, my head was shoved into the filthy water. Blub blub blub, slurp slurp. What is she doing? Why isn't she struggling? Why isn't she moving? The hand on my head loosened. I suddenly lifted my head, holding a mouthful of dirty water, and hugged the bully girl excitedly. As she stared at me in horror, I kissed her passionately. Ah! The bully girl let out a piercing scream and collapsed over the sink. Dry heaving. Ha 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 ha. I was dying of laughter. The bully girl's eyes were red as she frantically wiped her mouth. What are you all staring at? Beat her up. Compete with me in craziness? I casually grabbed the mop from the corner and shoved it straight into the toilet. The girls froze, as if struck by lightning. I grinned devilishly. Are you ready? With that, I pulled out the mop and started spinning and jumping around the bathroom. Ha 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 ha. Come on, come on. I've got a poop-covered spear. Whoever comes near, dies. The scene descended into chaos, and the girls were terrified. Don't come near me. Screams echoed down the hallway. Chapter 2. We were summoned by the dean. Ah. The classic flaw of youth melodrama, the teachers at school never stand for justice. So, the delinquents got off scot-free, and I ended up being called in with a parent. While waiting for my guardian to pick me up, I stood in the hallway, mimicking the female lead's signature pose, tilting my head at a 45-degree angle, letting the wind blow dramatically through my hair. Suddenly, the window behind me opened, and a guy pinched his nose, saying, "Please, I beg you. Can you stand somewhere else? Our entire class smells like crap." Ugh, what a mood killer. I quietly moved to the door of the office. Through the window, I locked eyes with the dean, and we shared a deep, soul-piercing stare. Chapter 3. Around the corner, a boy stood holding a towel, gazing at me with a sorrowful expression. That aura, that face. This must be the male lead. Sam. He walked toward me slowly, carefully keeping a safe distance from the smell of filth. Are you okay? Ha. Men. Here. Wipe yourself off first. Anna, I know you're going through a tough time. Sometimes I also wonder why the world is so unfair to us. But don't worry. I'll always be on your side. I looked at the towel he offered and sneered. Oh, then prove it. Sam froze. How? I spread my arms wide, tilted my head back, and closed my eyes. Don't talk. Hug me. Kiss me. Sam fled in a panic. I flipped him off as he ran away. Ha. Pathetic man. Chapter 4. Soon, a man stormed into the school, without a word. He slapped me across the face. You useless brat. I pay your tuition, and all you do is cause trouble at school. Just wait until I get you home. I slapped him back without hesitation. There was a mosquito. I got it for you. The protagonist of this story, Anna, had lost both parents at a young age and was separated from her only brother. Since she was 8, she had been living with her uncle's family, practically an unwanted guest. Not only did she have to cook and clean for them like a servant, but her cousin would also constantly harass her. Years of abuse. One word, tragic. After absorbing all of her memories, I was moved to tears. This family, it's perfect for my descent into madness. I love it. My uncle, stunned by my slap, glared at me as he dragged me out of the office. Wait until we get home. I'll deal with you then. When we got home, just as he was about to hit me again, I started crawling across the couch and floor, writhing with something unidentified all over my body. Ah, it's so itchy. My aunt broke down. I just bought that sofa. You better clean yourself up right now. They wouldn't let me bathe inside the house, so they set up a flimsy shed in the yard. I grabbed my clothes and went inside to take a look. No shower head. Well, that's fine. This makeshift bathhouse, with its transparent walls, is just perfect for their son to peek in, isn't it? I washed up casually, and as I stepped out, I ran into my cousin Oliver coming home. At 18, he was as fat as a pig. The moment he entered, he started whining about being hungry. Even though my aunt had been ready to scold me, she couldn't bear to leave her son starving. Grumbling, she brought out the dishes. You useless brat. Causing trouble at school is bad enough, and now I have to personally cook dinner for you too. Mom, hurry up. I'm starving. Coming. My precious son, I made braised pork for you today. Once the family had settled down, I noticed an empty seat and went to sit. My uncle kicked the chair out from under me. You caused trouble and still dare to sit down? Fine. No sitting then. I was starving and just wanted to eat. I grabbed some chopsticks and was about to take some food when my aunt slapped my hand away. Eat. That's all you know how to do. Now go wash the clothes. Oliver, with his mouth full of greasy food, looked at me with smug satisfaction. He tossed a piece of braised pork on the floor and, like calling a dog, said, "Come on, here's your reward." Expressionless, I glanced at him, picked up the braised pork, and slammed it onto his head. Oliver screamed, "Aw!" I picked up the same piece of pork from the floor and shoved it into his mouth. My aunt slammed the table and stood up, shrieking, "Are you insane?" My uncle cursed as he went to fetch a stick. Without a word, I turned and walked into the kitchen. A few seconds later, the sound of sharpening knives filled the air. Chapter 5. When my uncle's family nervously gathered at the kitchen door, I stared at them through the reflection in the gleaming blade of the kitchen knife and smiled. Terrified, they fled the house. I sat down at the dinner table and enjoyed a hearty meal, utterly satisfied. When they returned, they were much calmer. After whispering among themselves in their room for a while, they came out and declared that I had mental issues and told me not to go to school tomorrow. I heard everything. They were planning to keep me at home until I turned 18, then marry me off to someone for a bride price. What a joke. I can't even control myself. And you think you can control me? If I wanted to change my situation, the most urgent thing was to leave this family and find a powerful backer. So, I silently stood in front of them, and with sincere words, I said, "Uncle, Aunt, I've regained my senses. I remember everything now. Playing with poop at school and all my recent behavior, it was because I was severely traumatized." "What kind of trauma?" they asked. I mentioned the name of the bully girl. "There's this girl named Regina in our class who's been bullying me along with her little minions. They forced me to drink dirty water, cut up my clothes, and beat me up." As I spoke, I started to cry. I heard that a kid in the class next door got bullied, and the parents sued for 500,000 yuan. I've been hurt way worse. At least we could get 1 million, right? Uncle, Aunt, if you can get the money, just think of it as compensation for all the years you spent raising me. Their gazes grew greedier by the second. Can we really get 1 million? At first, they won't give it to you. But if you cause a scene at the school, they'll settle it quickly to avoid bad publicity. Chapter 6. The next day, my uncle and aunt stormed off to the school, full of righteous indignation. I could already imagine how difficult it would be to deal with their shameless tactics. I slept half the day at home and woke up to see that some classmates had posted videos on social media. Those two were born actors, right outside the classroom. They were wailing and complaining about how hard it was to raise me. My aunt even clung to Regina's leg. "You look like such a pretty young lady. How could you do something so cruel?" My poor Anna. Regina was terrified. Her usual sharp and haughty expression was replaced by fear and panic. "You're lying. I didn't do anything. You can check the surveillance footage to find out." My aunt wiped her nose on Regina's skirt as she spoke. "Ew. Are you sick or something?" Regina, infuriated, shoved my aunt. That was it. My aunt collapsed to the ground, motionless. Soon, the teachers and the dean showed up, and the scene turned into utter chaos. A dog-eat-dog drama, better than any soap opera. As night fell, the water supply got cut off. I looked out the window and saw our neighbor, Aunt Oriana, fanning herself while grumbling. "What a time to cut the water. How am I supposed to take a bath now?" I called out through the window, "Aunt Oriana, come use my bathroom. We've got hot water ready." Aunt Oriana and my aunt usually had a tense relationship, arguing every other day. She was harsh and bitter, and she often insulted the original me, calling me a girl born with a mother but raised without one. She hesitated at my offer, but the heat eventually won her over, and she agreed. I helped her fill a bucket of water and set it up in the makeshift shower in the yard. Once Aunt Oriana was inside, I sat in the corner of the yard. Not long after, I heard Oliver's voice from the main room. "Mom, where are you guys? I'm starving." I sent him a text on my phone. "Cousin, Uncle and Aunt went out for some errands. I'm in the shower shed." And the light suddenly went out. "Can you bring me a towel? I'm a bit scared." He quickly replied, Sure. I turned off the power in the shower shed before Aunt Oriana could call out. I said soothingly from outside, "Aunt Oriana, looks like there's a short circuit. I'll get you a light." Aunt Oriana, true to form, started cursing again. "You little brat. Can't you do anything right? Hurry up." I replied obediently. Silently, I turned around and walked out, knocking on each neighbor's door as I went. Chapter 7. Uncle, there's a snake in my house. Big sister, there's a snake in my house. Can you help me catch it? Auntie, there's a snake in my house. By the time I returned home with 4 or 5 neighbors of various ages, the timing was perfect. Everyone witnessed Oliver, stark naked, being chased out of the shower shed by Aunt Oriana. Aunt Oriana was only wrapped in a bath towel, cursing nonstop with an impressive variety of insults. She grabbed a basin and hurled it at Oliver's head. "You little bastard. I'm old, and you still dare to take advantage of me. You filthy pervert. Aren't you afraid your eyes will rot? I'm going to smash you to pieces." Oliver could only cover his head and flee. Then, the two of them turned and saw the dumbfounded neighbors staring at them. I was close enough to notice a girl from upstairs silently raising her phone, snapping a photo before furiously typing, "Guys, you won't believe the drama unfolding down here." Aunt Oriana screamed even louder, hitting Oliver more fiercely. "Aya, you've ruined my reputation. You filthy little bastard." Oliver, while dodging the attacks, spotted me. Realizing what had happened, he grabbed a bucket and charged at me. "It was you. You little brat. Didn't you say you were in the shower?" With a face full of terror, I sprinted around the yard, weaving through the crowd of neighbors. As I ran, I yelled hysterically, "Help! Murderer on the loose! Oliver, you were trying to spy on me in the shower. Have you no shame? Pervert on the run. He's flashing everyone." The neighbors erupted in laughter. Only then did Oliver realize he wasn't wearing any clothes. He quickly tried to cover himself with a basin, but just then, Aunt Oriana, relentless, caught up and grabbed him by the hair, threatening to call the police. "I've had enough." Furious after being beaten, Oliver, relying on his bulky figure, shoved Aunt Oriana forcefully, but he didn't expect Aunt Oriana, being rather heavy herself, to lose her balance and fall directly onto the steps. Her head hit the sharp edge, and she instantly passed out. The accident left everyone in shock. As blood began to trickle down the steps, Oliver stood frozen in fear. It was one of the other neighbors who snapped out of it and called an ambulance to take her to the hospital. By the time my uncle and aunt returned and heard what the neighbors had to say, they almost fainted on the spot. The 200,000 yuan in hush money they had just managed to extort from Regina's family was spent entirely on Aunt Oriana's medical bills, while my uncle and aunt were still busy arguing with Aunt Oriana's relatives. I packed up a few things and made a clean getaway. As I wandered the streets, the system, which had been silent since giving me my mission, suddenly spoke up. I never expected you to seek revenge in this way. I chuckled softly. What? Did you think the crazy female lead didn't have a brain? I'm the real heroine here. If I only relied on madness, I'd have been locked up in a mental hospital long ago. System, you make a good point. So, what's your plan now? Obviously, time to find a big backer. Chapter 8. The system was pumped up. I bet you have a whole series of plans lined up. The next second, I flagged down a Bentley right in the middle of the street. The window rolled down, revealing a cold, aristocratic face. It was the male lead Sam's half-brother, Santiago. Who are you? Without another word, I opened the car door and got in. You don't know me, but I know you. You're my big backer. System. Santiago looked ready to throw me out, so I quickly added, I can help you. He paused. In the novel, the male lead Sam was the illegitimate son of the family's CEO, and his mother was just a housemaid. After getting pregnant, his mother had to live in hiding, so Sam's childhood was full of misfortune. Classic tragic male lead backstory, right? But throughout the novel, Sam never actually helped Anna when she was in real trouble. All he ever did was act melancholic, lamenting the unfairness of fate. He even got on the bad side of a perverted teacher by pretending to be superior. Worse still, he brainwashed Anna into pleasing that same teacher for the sake of his future, leading to her being sexually harassed and left with emotional trauma. Ugh, just thinking about it makes me sick. While Anna was dragged through the mud, Sam reunited with his father and got caught up in a vicious inheritance battle with Santiago. Under the influence of the male lead halo, Santiago was eventually forced out of the family, left to struggle at the bottom of society. And just when you thought the male and female leads would finally end up together? Oh no, how could a perfect ending fit into a youth melodrama? After gaining wealth and power, Sam was forced into a political marriage with the heiress of the company. Seems like youth melodrama should really be called the male lead's youth, the female lead's pain, right? It's so absurd. And to top it off, how could an 18-year-old kid who had never been involved in business outsmart Santiago, who's 5 years older, well-educated, and already managing the family business? There's no logic. Santiago gave me a once-over. You want something from me? That's right. I want you to give me a place to live and sponsor me through high school and college. You want me to sponsor you? And why would I do that? Because I can solve the problem you're facing right now. Santiago froze. What problem? Your family wants you to marry someone, and you don't want to, but they're forcing you into an engagement tonight. Take me with you. I'll help you ruin the whole thing. Chapter 9. Santiago agreed. He took me inside, where I quietly hid in a corner, watching the rich and powerful of high society laughing and chatting. I was so bored I could barely contain my urge to stir things up. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for coming today. There are 2 important announcements I'd like to make, said Sam's father, the head of the family conglomerate, as he took the stage. First, I'm pleased to announce the engagement of my son, Santiago, to Roxana. Thunderous applause filled the room. I followed everyone's gaze and spotted an incredibly beautiful woman sitting nearby. Santiago, with a smile, walked over to her, bent slightly, and offered his hand like a gentleman. Miss Roxana. Just as Roxana was about to place her hand in his, I burst into the scene, bawling my eyes out. I dramatically grabbed Santiago's shirt and wailed, "No! How can you get engaged to another woman when I'm already pregnant with your child?" The entire room was stunned. Roxana instinctively pulled her hand back. Sam's father was furious. Santiago, what's the meaning of this? Santiago acted like he had no idea what was happening, pushing me away in shock. Who are you? I don't even know you. You don't know me? That night, you called me baby in bed. And now you say you don't recognize me? When did I ever touch you? A month ago, at the Crown Hotel. Are you still denying it? I have never touched you. You have. There's no way that child is mine. Why not? Because I'm completely incapable. A heavy silence blanketed the room. Santiago then turned to Roxana with a look of tender affection. Miss Roxana, please don't worry. I can't, physically, so I'd never betray you. I stood there, dumbfounded for a moment before stammering. Wait, aren't you Duncan? Of course not. Ah. I must have confused you with someone else. I let out an awkward laugh, bowing as I backed away. My apologies. Wrong person. Behind me. I heard Roxana's incredulous voice. I'm not going through with this engagement. Suddenly, the room was abuzz with chatter. Sam's father shouted, "This is outrageous!" Peeking from the doorway, I watched as his face darkened. The engagement with the Roxana family will go forward. No matter what. Even if Santiago isn't the groom, I still have another son. With that, he glanced toward the staircase. Sam, dressed in an expensive suit, made his grand entrance. Wait, what? How did he reunite with the family this early? Miss Roxana, my second son went missing when he was a child, but we recently found him. You two are about the same age, so I'm sure you'll have much more in common. This was the second announcement I wanted to make today. The way Roxana looked at Sam said it all. This engagement was practically a done deal. Sam, however, looked past the crowd toward me, his eyes filled with concern. Chapter 10. After completing my task, I was about to leave when Sam suddenly grabbed my wrist at the elevator. Anna, what's going on? Are you pregnant? Were you bullied? I pretended to clean out my ear. It's a long story, and since I can't shorten it, I'll just skip telling it. I took a couple of steps toward the door before stepping back and adding, "Oh, and congratulations on your engagement." Sam followed me all the way to the hotel entrance, his eyes red as he blocked my path. Anna, you know as well as I do, in this world, we're the only two who are alike. I don't want to marry someone else, but I have no choice. I can't even protect myself right now. I have to rely on my family. Because of this drama, not only did Sam's reunion with his family happen earlier than expected, but Roxana, who was supposed to be engaged to Santiago, ended up getting engaged to Sam instead. Who knows how chaotic things will get from here on out. As I was feeling too annoyed to keep talking to him, I caught a glimpse of a nearby Maserati with its window rolling down. Roxana's furious eyes locked onto Sam holding my hand. In that instant, I could almost see a line of text flashing above her head, hatred level plus 10,086. I tried to shake Sam's hand off, but before I could, he let go even faster than I expected. According to the typical behavior of a female lead in a melodrama, I was supposed to be heartbroken and leave for Sam's sake, but I'm a bit of a rebel. I grabbed his hand right back and asked, "Sorry, I didn't quite hear you. Could you say that again?" Sam stammered. Didn't you just say you didn't want to marry?" "I didn't say that." Sam shoved me aside and quickly walked over to Roxana. I watched coldly as he stood by the car, furrowing his brows and saying something that immediately made Roxana smile. From start to finish, Sam didn't dare look back at me even once. Just then, a familiar Bentley pulled up. Santiago, sitting in the back, beckoned to me with a gesture. "I'll take you to your place." Chapter 11. Santiago arranged a place for me. It was an apartment not far from the school. Before he left, I couldn't resist asking, "Now that Sam's marrying Roxana, aren't you afraid that he'll become even more powerful and push you out of the company?" Santiago paused for a moment, turned to look at me, and shrugged. "It doesn't matter. I won't sacrifice my freedom for any of that." I was silent for a moment. "Author, please take a good look. Who's really the male lead here? Can't you see it?" Feeling a surge of emotions, I patted Santiago on the shoulder and said, "Don't worry, little carp. You'll reach the peak of your life." In the original story, a big part of Santiago's downfall came from his wife, Roxana's chaotic manipulations. But now that Roxana is engaged to Sam, the whole story's trajectory will change. Santiago looked confused. "Little carp?" "Yeah, little carp. It'll bring you good luck and keep you grounded." Santiago's lips curved slightly as he turned to leave. Study hard. I look forward to the day you help me reach the peak of my life. Chapter 12. When the break ended and I returned to school, I was completely shocked to find Roxana in my class. Everyone, meet our new transfer student, Roxana. Be sure to get along, the homeroom teacher said, assigning her a seat next to Sam. It was clear Roxana had transferred schools specifically for Sam. As for Regina, who used to bully me, after my uncle and aunt made a scene at the school, her infamous deed spread throughout the campus. Too embarrassed to stay, she transferred out. But now, it seemed I had another adversary. I couldn't help but wonder if the system had arranged this on purpose. The system remained silent, pretending to be dead, offering no response. After evening self-study, Roxana cornered me by the stairwell, arms crossed as she confronted me. I know everything. You're just a regular high school student. That night at the banquet, it was all nonsense, wasn't it? You did it just to sabotage my engagement to Santiago. Are you insane? I was taken aback. That's what you call insane? My original plan was to hug your leg and call you mom, claiming I was your long-lost daughter. But Santiago said that wouldn't be good for your reputation. So I held back. Roxana's face turned red with anger, and after a long pause, she scoffed coldly. You're in love with Santiago, aren't you? Do you really think you can climb that high? Even though I prefer Sam and am fine with the engagement swap, I won't let you get away with what you did to me. Just wait. Roxana wasted no time in her revenge. The very next day, I saw my uncle and aunt, whom I hadn't seen in days, standing outside my classroom, loudly demanding to see me. I turned to look at Roxana, only to find her sitting at her desk with a smug, gloating expression. Clearly, Roxana had gotten in touch with my uncle and aunt and clued them in on everything. Their eyes were bulging with fury, like they wanted to tear me apart. What have we done to deserve such a heartless, ungrateful brat? Anna, that little wretch. She slandered her cousin and got him thrown in jail. My poor son. He's only 18, about to take his college entrance exams in a few months. We raised Anna. And what did she do? She stole everything from us and ran away with all our money. What kind of sin is this? There's no justice in this world. They shouted at the classroom door, attracting a bigger and bigger crowd. I could see that it was time. Without hesitation, I threw myself onto the ground. I started screaming and wailing, writhing and crawling like a twisted serpent. I failed my arms and legs, kicking and spinning like a deranged breakdancer. I moved like an ant had taken over my body, scratching myself wildly, attacking indiscriminately on all fours. The students scattered in terror, and soon, I was taken to the psychiatric ward of the hospital. Chapter 13. The attending doctor was a friend of Santiago's. After my examination, I was diagnosed with schizophrenia. Once I was discharged, I took my medical report and headed straight to my uncle and aunt's workplace. At the entrance, I repeated the same act, throwing myself to the ground, screaming and rolling around. It's a tragedy. How could my uncle and aunt be so heartless? They stole the million-yuan compensation my parents left me and raised me like a dog. They caused me to develop schizophrenia. I hate them, and my perverted cousin harassed me every day. I don't want to live anymore. It didn't take long for my uncle and aunt to come rushing out. When they saw me writhing and crawling in the dirt like some twisted, dark creature, they immediately tried to restrain me. But in the struggle, I grabbed my aunt's hair and kicked my uncle square in the groin. Then I slapped both of them across the face. As the crowd gathered, my uncle and aunt, fuming with anger, pointed at me, clearly thinking they could turn the tables by throwing a tantrum themselves. Just what I wanted. They lay down on the ground, trying to imitate my act. Perfect. I jumped on top of them and unleashed a barrage of slaps. When they threatened to call the police, I calmly pulled out my medical report from my pocket. With a blank, confused expression, I asked, "What just happened?" My uncle, my aunt. This incident quickly spread online. After an investigation by the police, it was confirmed that I had been abused for years. Not only did I recover the compensation money my parents had left me, but my uncle and aunt were also convicted of abuse and sent to jail to join their son. Chapter 14. When I returned to school, No one dared to mess with me anymore. Armed with my medical report like it was a legendary martial arts manual, I walked with an air of invincibility, looking down on everyone. There's a certain loneliness that comes with being unbeatable. That day, as I sat alone eating my lunch, Sam sat across from me, his expression filled with sorrow. Anna, I used to think I was the most pitiful person in the world, but now I realize you've had it far worse. Don't be afraid, no one will ever bully you again. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed Roxana standing a short distance away, glaring daggers at me. I really wanted to smash my plate over Sam's head. Is this guy deliberately trying to stir up trouble for me, just to make sure I don't live too peacefully? But I couldn't do that, I hadn't finished eating yet. Get lost. Sam froze. What did you say? I gritted my teeth. I said, get the hell out. You idiot. Sam left. But Roxana's hatred meter was already maxed out. That night, I made sure to pack up my things and leave early. As I neared the alley by my house, 3 or 4 men blocked my way. The guy leading them wore a sleazy grin. You messed with the wrong person. Sweetheart, she sent us to teach you a lesson. Sorry about this. They began closing in on me step by step. I was ready to go wild on them when suddenly, an agonizing pain ripped through my soul, like it was being torn apart. Everything flashed white, and when I came to, I found myself floating in the air as a spirit. Anna screamed. What are you going to do to me? The original Anna had returned. The men sneered as they grabbed her arms, dragging her deeper into the alley. It wasn't that late. The sky hadn't even fully darkened. Plenty of people saw what was happening, but no matter how desperately Anna cried for help, not a single person stepped in. This was the essence of tragic youth literature, highlighting the female lead's misery through the indifference of bystanders. I wanted to roll my eyes but could only float helplessly, shouting, "Pee yourself!" Anna, shocked, replied, "What?" She could hear me? "Just do it," I urged. "Pee on yourself. They might let you go if they're disgusted." Anna sobbed. "I'm too nervous. I can't pee." The men got even more excited. "Look at that. She's a feisty one. Don't worry, darling. We'll take good care of you. Help." Anna reached out toward me in despair, and I desperately tried to grab her hand. The moment our fingertips touched, I felt a powerful force pulling me back into her body. The thug holding me froze. "Boss, what's with her eyes? She's different." Before he could finish, I slammed my forehead into his face. As he let go in pain, I scrambled to my feet and bolted toward the crowd. I knocked over an old lady's phone, yanked off a tattooed guy's wig, and even pulled down a random passerby's pants. I didn't stop there. I grabbed a girl's boyfriend and planted a kiss on his face. The thugs couldn't catch me anymore. Why? Because now the crowd had surrounded me, demanding an explanation. Chapter 15. People only care about things when it affects them personally. When you cross their line, see how quickly they get involved. Heh, the solution to indifference? Go crazy. Santiago bailed me out of the police station and even paid compensation to all the bystanders. As Santiago was driving me back to my place, he seemed like he wanted to say something, but I cut him off and apologized first. I didn't have any other choice. "Don't worry. I'll treat the money as a loan and pay you back after I graduate." "Nicely done." I froze. "What?" Santiago gave a small smile. "Next time you find yourself in a similar situation, I hope you smash something even more expensive. I'm happy to cover the cost." I was taken aback, staring at his profile for a moment, a bit lost in thought. Chapter 16. When I got home, the original Anna's soul followed me inside. She was sitting across from me in her transparent form, head lowered like a child who had done something wrong. I immediately sensed something was off. "Go ahead. Tell me what's going on." Anna spoke in a low voice. "That day, they dragged me into the bathroom." She explained how the long-term bullying at school had taken a huge toll on her mental health. That day, when Regina and her gang took her to the bathroom, she had thoughts of ending her life. It was at that moment that the system appeared, offering her the chance to swap souls with another female protagonist from a different story. She could come back after surviving this period. It was a selfish choice, but at the time, Anna felt she had no other options. "So, you chose me?" Anna nodded. "I told the system I wanted someone who could make others fear them, and it recommended you. The system continued playing dead. Then why are you back now? And I haven't returned to my world? Anna looked even more guilty. Don't be mad when I tell you. Just say it. I think they figured out I wasn't the real you in your world. They called me a fraud and tried to catch me. I ran. But I fell down some stairs and, well, now I'm in a coma. I gasped, barely able to breathe. The empire I built through madness. All of it, gone. I grabbed my throat. I'm going to kill myself. Anna panicked, flitting around the room. No. Stop. Don't do that. If you return to your world, you'll wake up. I paused, letting go. Anna's wish was to change her tragic ending, and the current storyline was completely different from the original. Isn't that enough of a change? No. Wait! There's still one major event. Escaping the clutches of the perverted teacher is the true way to change her fate. Chapter 17. In theory, it shouldn't be too hard to avoid that disaster. The tricky part was that the next day, my soul got pushed out of my body again, left with no choice. I floated by Anna's side as she went to school. Anna was late, and as she was climbing the stairs, she saw Sam talking to a teacher. Did you erase my competition spot? Sam asked. The teacher smirked arrogantly. So what if I did? He leaned in toward Sam, his voice dripping with condescension. Just remember, in this school, I call the shots. I'd advise you to stay out of things that don't concern you. If you see something, pretend you didn't. Sam's hands, hanging at his sides, clenched tightly into fists. The teacher glanced over his shoulder and noticed Anna approaching. He gave Sam one last threatening look before turning and walking away. Anna hurried over, her voice full of concern. Sam, what happened? Sam's eyes lit up when he saw Anna. You haven't called my name in a long time. Really? Then what have I been calling you? Sam fell silent. Meanwhile, I was doing somersaults in the air. Come on. Spill it. I always called him idiot. It's nothing. It just feels like you've been distant lately. But now, you seem like the Anna I used to know. Anna laughed awkwardly. Do you have a problem with Mr. Nestor? After a long hesitation, Sam said, let's talk somewhere else. He led Anna up to the rooftop, switching to his familiar melancholic demeanor. Just a week ago, I saw him in his office, touching a girl's thigh. I wanted to expose him, but since then, he's been making things difficult for me at school. He even threatened me, saying if I spoke up, I wouldn't graduate. I've already lost my spot in the competition. I can't risk graduation too. As he finished, Sam buried his face in his hands, clearly distressed. I'm so useless. Why is this world so dark? Anna, ever the empathetic one, sat beside him, gazing up at the sky at a dramatic 45-degree angle. Yeah, this world really isn't fair. Seriously? Who can relate to this nonsense? I was ready to kick them both off the rooftop. What did the world ever do to you too? First, it's the world is dark. Then it's unfair. Anna clearly wasn't thinking straight. Sam's story might have been believable if he'd told it a week ago. But now, he was already back with the powerful Sam family. How could a mere teacher hold him down? Sam was the kind of guy who talks big but does nothing, not wanting to cause trouble for his family and potentially harm his future prospects. And of course, Anna was falling for it. Hook, line, and sinker. Chapter 18. At lunchtime, Anna, filled with newfound courage, headed toward the creepy teacher's office. I followed her, completely baffled. What are you doing? Anna, full of righteous determination, declared. I'm going to confront him. I need to help Sam. Perfect. The original plot is coming back into play. In the original story, Anna goes to confront the perverted teacher alone, only to be harassed and threatened by him. This trauma eventually leads her into a deep depression. As Anna walked into the office, several teachers were still in the middle of a meeting. Anna knocked on the door. I need to speak with Mr. Nestor. Nestor waved Anna over. I've got a little time. You came at the perfect moment. We're working on the teaching plan for the next quarter. As a student, why don't you sit in and give us feedback if anything seems off? Nestor, being the head of the math department, naturally faced no objections from the other teachers. They even complimented him for thinking about the students. Anna had no choice but to pull up a chair and sit beside him. It didn't take long before Nestor's wandering hand found its way to her thigh. Anna froze in place, her body going rigid. Fearfully, she glanced at my transparent form, her eyes pleading for help. I looked at her coldly, completely unimpressed by the situation. You knew this would happen. Why did you come? Anna's lips quivered, and her eyes filled with unshed tears. But she remained silent. You keep talking about changing your fate, I continued, my voice sharp. But do you know what you really need to change? Your saint complex. I glanced at her, seeing that same hopeless look in her eyes. Sam? He's smart. He stirs up trouble and walks away unscathed. When are you going to learn to put yourself first? Anna's lips moved. Help me. I was beyond frustrated at her helplessness. With a surge of anger, I dove into her body, taking full control. All right, I muttered under my breath. I'll show you exactly how to deal with a creep like him. With full control of her body, I calmly placed my hand over Nestor's wandering one, holding it in place. Nestor blinked in surprise, but before he could react, I grinned mischievously and suddenly grabbed his backside. Nestor flinched violently. I tightened my grip, twisting the flesh between my fingers as hard as I could. "Aff!" Nestor gasped, his face turning beet red as he jerked away, clutching his backside. The other teachers looked up, confused. "What's going on, Mr. Nestor?" Nestor glanced at me, his face still flushed, and forced a laugh. "And nothing. I just, there must have been a bug in my clothes." Chapter 19. Once the meeting ended, Nestor looked at me, confused. "What do you want?" I smiled in a way that could only be described as a little unsettling. "Oh, I was just thinking about you, teacher." I wanted to discuss my academic progress. Nestor eyed me warily for a long moment. "Wait here. I need to use the restroom." I followed him from a distance, listening to the sound of water running inside the bathroom. Slowly, I walked into the stall next to his and climbed onto the toilet, peering over the top like a true creep. "Heh heh heh." "Nestor, teacher," I whispered. Nestor looked up in shock, his face paling as he saw my eerie grin. What are you doing?" Nestor scrambled to pull up his pants, but I just stared at a certain spot and chuckled darkly. "So small, it's kind of cute." Nestor panicked. He tried to push the door open, but it was blocked. Before he could react, I dumped a whole bucket of water over his head. As Nestor shrieked in shock, I licked my lips and sneered. "Teacher, you look so sexy when you're soaked." "Ah." Nestor bolted out of the stall, crashing through the door, and ran into the hallway, straight into a group of teachers. Terrified, he pointed at me, shouting, "Anna! Anna is insane." My homeroom teacher calmly replied, "Yeah, didn't you know?" "Nestor," he began stammering. She sexually harassed me." As soon as the words left his mouth, I stepped out of the men's restroom, tugging at my collar and looking utterly pitiful. Tears welled up in my eyes, but I didn't say a word. I just stared at the teachers, letting the tears fall. The other teachers fell into an awkward silence, their gazes shifting from me to Nestor, now filled with disgust. "Nestor, we'd like to ask what you did to Anna. Why would she come out of the men's restroom? Did she walk in there by herself? Anna is an 18-year-old girl. Why would she harass you?" Nestor, now enraged, stomped his foot. "How the hell should I know?" My homeroom teacher draped a jacket over my shoulders. "Anna, go back to the classroom. We'll get to the bottom of this." Chapter 20. They said they would give me an explanation, but that was the last I heard of it. It was obvious why. Nestor was the principal's younger brother, so of course, they swept everything under the rug and pretended it never happened. But I wasn't going to let it go that easily. That night, after school, Nestor got into his car, ready to drive home. I pulled out the electric stun baton I'd stolen from the security office and jabbed it into his side. After a violent spasm, Nestor slumped unconscious. Once everyone had left the school, I dragged him to the broadcasting room. After tying him to a chair, I blindfolded him and gagged his mouth. Now everything was ready, just waiting for the students to arrive in the morning. As the hours passed, I glanced at Anna, who was floating beside me. "Now do you understand?" Anna nodded. I understand. The way to deal with creeps is to be even crazier than them. I smiled. People always say I'm crazy, but the truth is, it's just my extreme way of protecting my own interests. Do you know why the system told you I'm the most feared among all the female leads? Because I'm willing to do anything to put myself first. I can't stand suffering or being taken advantage of. I looked at her, waiting for her response. Anna, with a newfound certainty, answered, I need to go crazy. No, I corrected. You need to use your brain. I gave her a sharp glance. Without a brain, you can't even go crazy properly. You just end up in a psych ward. Once this is over, I might leave. Take this as my final advice. Read more. Stay out of unnecessary trouble, and keep your distance from Sam if you want to stay safe. Oh, and one more thing. I paused. His brother, Santiago, he's a great guy. Anna, noticing the shift in my tone, asked curiously, wait, do you like Santiago? Like? Maybe a little. How could anyone not like someone like him? But my feelings for him were nothing more than a fleeting regret. The kind that comes from knowing I'd never see him again. To say I would stay for him? That was impossible. I've gone crazy plenty of times in my life, but never for love. Almost everyone who goes crazy for love ends up with a bad outcome. We call them love fools. Chapter 21. At dawn, I left the broadcasting room, carefully avoiding the security cameras, and hid on the rooftop. When Nestor woke up, panic overtook him, and he began shouting, Who are you? Where am I? What do you want? Using a voice modulator through my earpiece, I responded, Nestor, have you forgotten what you've done to me? Nestor hesitated. Are you Elise? No. She's gone abroad. Are you Alice? Or Abigail? Who the hell are you? I didn't confirm or deny his guesses, simply saying, Now, I want you to confess, word for word, everything you've done to all the girls. If you hide even the slightest detail, I'll blow up the explosives strapped to your body. Wait! No! I'll talk! Nestor's voice trembled as he began to speak. The first time I messed up was in the school pool. I saw a freshman girl with a hole in her swimsuit, so I offered to take her to change. In the locker room, I gave her a drink laced with sleeping pills. And then, Nestor recounted every filthy, disgusting detail. His confession broadcast across the entire school. Every student was in shock. By the time the school leadership realized what was happening and rushed to the broadcasting room, Nestor had finished his revolting tale. He had wet himself out of fear, and when his blindfold was removed, the first person he saw was the principal, clutching at him desperately like a drowning man grasping at straws. Nestor cried, Brother, you're here. I was kidnapped. They strapped a bomb to me, but everyone around him looked at him with disgust. Nestor looked around and realized he was still at school. At that moment, he understood everything. No, everything I just said was a lie. It's not true. Outside, the sound of police sirens wailed. A crowd of students surged toward the door. Beat the pervert! Monster! By the time the police dragged Nestor away, he was so beaten he couldn't stand. Chapter 22. At that moment, I felt my soul starting to detach from Anna's body. It was clear I had successfully altered Anna's storyline. She would no longer face a tragic ending. Suddenly, the phone rang. Surprised, I pulled it out and saw Santiago's name on the screen. With just enough control left before fully leaving Anna's body, I answered the call. Hello. His voice carried a hint of teasing. I just passed by your school and saw the police cars. I had a feeling it was your doing. A small smile tugged at my lips. Yeah, it was me again, but this is the last time. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. That sounds like a goodbye. Something like that. You're not coming back? After a long pause, Santiago chuckled softly. I always had a feeling you didn't belong here. I just didn't expect you to leave so soon. I suppose the world you come from must be more exciting than this one. Goodbye, Anna. As my soul completely detached from the body, I managed to get out my final words. Goodbye, little fish. In my mind, the system's voice rang out again. Congratulations on completing the mission. You will be transferred back to your original world. 1 billion cash reward has been sent. Countdown begins. 10, 9. Anna looked at my soul with a complicated expression. Thank you, and I'm sorry. I shouldn't have selfishly pulled you into my life and made you endure my pain. I suppose I had always been angry about it, but as soon as I received the cash reward, I felt a wave of calm wash over me. With a grin, I waved enthusiastically at Anna. Sweetie, if you ever want to switch souls again, hit me up. The countdown ticked down to the final moments. Sam burst onto the rooftop, his face lit with excitement. Anna, did you hear? Nestor was arrested by the police. Anna didn't even turn to look at him as she walked away. Yeah, I know, idiot. Chapter 23, 10 a.m. Hospital. The sound of machines beeping echoed in my ears. My consciousness slowly returned, and I overheard my subordinates talking about how they were planning to divide my estate. She's basically a vegetable now. We can do whatever we want. Exactly. Even if by some miracle she wakes up. She's changed. She won't stand a chance against us. But no one knows where her vault is hidden. It's in the basement under her garden. How do you know? All eyes turned toward me. I lay in bed, casually waving at them with a smile. Long time no see. Miss me? The guy in front screamed in terror, clutching his head. She's back. Ah, the crazy woman is back. I sighed, rubbing my ear in irritation. Ah, looks like it's time to go crazy again.